PhD. One day you will write books. One day commercials. One day the impossible, you will laugh at the impossible. You will look at the impossible and go, what was I thinking?
Good afternoon, my spoiler alert friends. Thanks for joining me in another episode. So I wanted to hop on here today and I wanted to talk about sourdough bread. But after doing my research and some digging, turns out there's actually limited evidence to support the idea that sourdough bread and fermented foods in general, I guess, are beneficial for what I thought they were beneficial for. So I heard, cardiovascular health, gut health, things like that. And while the gut health is true, it's not true for the reason I thought it was true. So, and in addition, I found that there's not much information on sourdough bread in particular. It's more than other things, but not the most. And the thing I found that's actually, I'm interested to try it out was Kefir. And so I'll be putting in a link to the article in the description so that you guys can do your own due diligence and look into it. As always, consult your healthcare provider beforehand, especially with this one because gut health is important. And I mean, not that any other system isn't important, but in particular, these fermented foods, depending on how they're prepared, can have good or bad impacts. I guess the bad was very limited. I didn't see much bad. It's more like it's not doing anything. So in these trying financial times, you might want to be considerate because these foods aren't necessarily cheap, depending on where you are on the spectrum of wealth. So the kefir thing, though, I figured that's one that I can easily add into my diet. It's I did a quick Google search and they have kefir milk. And kefir is supposed to be, based on the research, it's supposed to be good at reducing H. pylori and other things. Not that I'm worried about H. pylori for myself necessarily, but basically it helps to reduce bad bacteria inside of the gut. And it can be protective in people who have IBS. I believe it was Crohn's disease and irritable bowel syndrome. If the IBS it's either IBS D and C or IBS C. I know it spoke a lot on constipation and its effects on constipation, but nevertheless, great information. I'll be purchasing a bottle of it just to see. I don't know, maybe it'll be good with a side of my sourdough bread peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. And the interesting thing also for me was part of the reason why it's hard for them to research fermented foods and their impacts on health is because you end up with different bacteria frequently when you're making fermented foods. And that's one of the issues they came across a lot with sourdough bread. In the article, you'll see, trying to replicate studies. That's one of the ways that they determine its effectiveness is if it can be replicatable, right? So the issue was, sometimes the sourdough bread was doing great and it's like it has these benefits, but other times it wasn't. So then they determined that it's the preparation. Sometimes if you bake it, that changes the microbiome versus not baking it. And then they have in vivo and in vitro studies and things like that. So there are a lot of variables around the testing of these things, and it just happens to be that because of all those variables, and I'm sure cost effectiveness, it can be challenging to come to a solid conclusion that is supported by evidence. So The authors of this study that you'll see recommend that more high quality studies are performed because we need more evidence. I can speak on my own behalf here. The sourdough bread that I get, what I have noticed is that after eating it, I have less gas. I have more frequent, not more frequent, but more consistent bowel movements. And it just generally feels better inside of my tummy, right? So mine is more observational, and it may not be that, may not be that, because again, I'm eating a multitude of different foods, and the combination could be the thing that's making these positive changes. But nevertheless, thought I'd throw this out there. You guys go ahead, try it out. Again, talk to your healthcare provider, see what they say, but I don't think it's a bad thing to sample, and I'll let you guys know what I think about the kefir milk. I'm curious about the taste. I don't know. I've tried a bunch of different things, and I'm sure it won't be too bad, but we'll see what happens, and I'll let you guys know. Thanks.
One thing I know is that I'm going up. It's the only way to go.